All right. Hello, everyone. This is Taylor, live from the upper room. I decided to do a last minute, well, not really last minute. I'm going to plan on making this a regular occurrence because I find my Wednesday evenings open now. And I just finished reading through the entire book of Matthew just for fun. And I wanted to share some of the stuff that I've learned in regards to that. And considering the show that I'm doing right now, the parashots that are the whole Torah, even though we're touching on bits and pieces from the books of the New Testament, I wanted to start a series that also covers the New Testament books in and of themselves. And considering I'm able to do this now on Wednesday evenings, I decided to put a little presentation together on the first chapter, and we'll see how things go from there. Let's see, share screen. So again, this will be on the book of Matthew. We are going to be reading from the Concordant version, and I will be reading the commentary from A. Enoch along with it. I have a little thing pulled up here on the side. Unfortunately, I can't pull up both simultaneously, so I'll be deferring to my notes over on the side of my screen if you guys happen to see me look over to the side or pause. So yeah, I'm excited to get this started. Hopefully we'll be covering more than a chapter a night, but considering that this one will be kind of the intro and the first chapter, we're going to stick with one for right now, and we'll try to make this a Wednesday thing. So just to give you all a brief overview of the book of Matthew according to the Concordant commentary, this is what it has to say. Matthew manifests the Messiah as the son of David and the son of Abraham. He is the king of Israel and the owner of the land. His genealogy is presented to prove his title to the throne and attest his inheritance from the father of the faithful. This account is occupied with the kingdom to Israel in the land of promise. It is concerned with the covenants made with Abraham and with David. The four accounts or portrayers of Christ give four discriminated aspects of their common subject and are not intended to be harmonized. Each writer, talking about the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, each writer has his particular principles of selection and arrangement. Matthew's account, ever recognized as the Hebrew Gospel, is the true commencement of the Greek scriptures, showing how they grow out of the Hebrew writings. It quotes at every step from the older scriptures. It is both a history and a fulfillment of prophecy. Matthew never raises above the plane of Israel's interests and hopes. So it's very, very kingdom-based. The characteristic phrase is the kingdom of the heavens. You'll never see it mentioned more times than in this book. This refers to Daniel's prophecy, and in the days of these kings, the God of the heavens shall set up a kingdom which shall not be harmed for the eon, and the kingdom shall not be left to another people. It shall crush and terminate all these kingdoms, Daniel 2:44. And the kingdom and the authority and the majesty of the kingdom under all the heavens is granted to the people of the saints of the supremacies, Daniel 7:27. It is a kingdom in the sense that Babylon, Medo-Persia, and Greece were kingdoms. It is still future. It is the rule of one people over other nations, yet it will not be destroyed as its predecessors in world dominion, but will last for the eons. Notwithstanding the fact that the Messiah is sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, as stated in Matthew 15:24, and that he forbade his apostles to go to the other nations or to the Samaritans, as stated in, again, this book, chapter 10, verse 5. The few instances in which the aliens are mentioned are most significant. 4 Gentile women enter the genealogy, as we'll see in verses 1, 3, 5, and 6. Tamar's sin introduced her into the line of ancestry. Rahab came in by faith. In Ruth's case, grace trumped over the law that would ban a Moabite from the congregation of Jehovah. Bathsheba reminds us of David's great transgression and shows us grace reigning despite sin. The Magi came to worship him while Herod seeks his life, as stated in chapter 2, 1 through 12. The centurion exhibits a faith unknown in Israel, as stated in chapter 8, 5 through 12. The Canaanitish woman is commended for her confidence in Christ, chapter 15, 21 through 28. Pilate and his wife refuse responsibility when the Jews seek to condemn him, chapter 27, 10 and 24. The centurion at the cross acknowledges that he is the Son of God, chapter 27, 54. It is only at the end of the account, after all authority on earth is in the hands of the king, that the disciples are commissioned to go and make disciples of the nations. This cannot occur, though, until the kingdom comes. Thus, the proclamation of the kingdom of the heavens is restricted to the people of whom the prophet Daniel spoke, Israel. The narrative is divided into 2 distinct periods, each of which begins with his acknowledgement as Son of God by a voice from heaven and closes by its acknowledgement by man. The first by the disciples, the second by the nations. The first extends from John's baptism in chapter 3, 16 through 17, and closes with Peter's confession, 16:16. During this period, the kingdom is proclaimed and rejected so that he forbids its future proclamation. The second period is occupied with his priestly preparation for the sacrifice on Golgotha. It begins with the transformation on the mount, transformation on the mount, chapter 17, 1 through 5, where Moses and Elijah spoke of his decease, and continued to the crucifixion, where the centurion said, "Truly, this was God's Son." Again, chapter 25 or 27:54. I'm going to take a brief pause here. Oh, we have Brother Lawrence here. Very blessed evening to you, Lawrence. I pray that other women come to hear you and are encouraged into holiness. Bless you, godly woman. You're way too kind to me, Lawrence. Thank you so much. And you are a godly brother, always encouraging the body whenever we need it, and especially when we need it. So thank you very much for that. And now I just want to set things up so I can see not only this, but also my notes. Where are my notes? There we go. So we'll start with chapter 1. The scroll of the lineage of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham begets Isaac. Now Isaac begets Jacob. Now Jacob begets Judah and his brothers. Now Judah begets Pharez and Zerah of Tamar. And now remember, if you watch my Parashot series, we recently covered Judah and Tamar's sons. As you know, Judah had relations with Tamar thinking that she was a prostitute. And Tamar posed as a prostitute because Judah didn't uphold his promise of giving her to his youngest son after her original husband, his oldest, and the stand-in husband, the second, both passed away. And she gives birth to Pharez and Zerah. And we had a discussion where Zerah was the twin who stuck his hand out first, and the midwife assumed that Zerah, since he was partially out, that he would be the firstborn. So she tied a red string around his wrist to signify him as the firstborn and to designate him as the recipient of all of the firstborn blessings and responsibilities. But God, doing what God does best, he surprises everyone by having Zerah retract his hand. His brother Pharez is born, followed by Zerah, making the second born actually the firstborn. And Pharez is the actual person through whom Christ's lineage is, as we'll see here. Now Pharez begets Hezron. And the reason why Zerah is included, even though he has no genetic relation or direct genetic relation to Jesus, is because he was so spiritually significant that God found it pertinent that he be included along with his twin brother in the lineage of Christ. So I thought that was a neat little addition. Now Pharez begets Hezron. Now Hezron begets Aram. Now Aram begets Amenabad. Now Amenadab begets Nashon. Now Nashon begets Salmon. Now Salmon begets Boaz of Rahab. And if you want to learn more about that story, you can go to the book of Ruth on that one. Or I'm sorry, it's coming up. Now Boaz begets Obed of Ruth. Now Obed begets Jesse. Now Jesse begets King David the king. Now David begets Solomon, the wife of Uriah. And the notes say to compare verses 1 through 6 with the book of Luke, chapter 3, 23 through 38. And it speaks of the same lineage. Now Solomon begets Rehoboam. Now Rehoboam begets Abiah. Now Abiah begets Asaph. Now Asaph begets Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat begets Jehoram. Now Jehoram begets Uzziah. Uzziah begets Jotham. Now Jotham begets Ahaz. Now Ahaz begets Hezekiah. And we're going to pause right here and go to the notes. Between Joram and Ozias, there were 3 kings, Ahaziah, Joash, and Amaziah. But their names were blotted out according to law, Deuteronomy 29:20, because they introduced idolatry into Israel. Uzziah, or Azariah, or Jehoahaz, forgive me for butchering these names, walked in the ways of Ahab and was slain by Jehu, as stated in 2 Chronicles 22, 3 and 9. So you can go to that to verify that claim. Joash served Jehovah as long as the priest Jehoiada lived, but afterwards the princes of Judah served idols. He slew the son of Jehoiada, who remonstrated. So they killed the one person who objected and probably would have saved them from going down this path. Hence, the servants of King Jehoash slew him and would not bury him in the tombs of the kings. And this is verified in 2 Chronicles 24, 17 through 25. Amaziah also bowed down to the gods of the sons of Seir and was slain by the people of Jerusalem. And you can verify that in 2 Chronicles 25, 15 through 27. Now Uzziah begets Jotham. Now Jotham begets Ahaz. Now Ahaz begets Hezekiah. Hezekiah begets Manasseh. Now Manasseh begets Amos. Now Amos begets Josiah. Now Josiah begets Jeconiah and his brothers at the Babylonian exile. And verses 6 through 11 on this can also be compared with 1 Chronicles 3, 10 through 16, as it also lists this lineage timeline out. Now, after the Babylonian exile, Jeconiah begets Shathiel. Now, Shathiel begets Zerubbabel. Now, Zerubbabel begets Abihud. Abihud begets Eliakim. Eliakim begets Azor. Azor begets Zadok. Zadok begets Ahiam. Ahiam begets Eliud. Eliud begets Eleazar. Now Eleazar begets Mathan. Mathan begets Jacob. Now Jacob begets Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom was born Jesus, who is termed Christ. And this can also all be verified in 1 Chronicles 3:17 through 19, verses 12 through 16. And now if we just take a brief moment to go back to Jehoiakim or Shallum, he's one of the kings that is omitted from the list of the kings because he refused Jeremiah's warnings, forsook the covenant, and turned to other gods, which can be verified in Jeremiah 22, 1 through 7. In Chronicles, mention is made not only of his abominations or idolatry, but to that which was found on him. 2 Chronicles 36, 8. He had made cuttings or marks on his flesh as a sign of his allegiance to other gods, which is prohibited in Leviticus 19:28. Hence, he was denied human burial, and his name is blotted out from the register of the kings as dictated in Deuteronomy 29:18 through 20. Jeconiah's name is shortened to Coniah, which you can verify in Jeremiah 22:24, to show that Jehovah withdrew his support from him. He is not included in the line of kings. None of his 7 sons, who are listed in 1 Chronicles 3:17 through 18, succeeded to the throne. As no man of his seed can prosper sitting on the throne of David, yet the regal rights are in his line. Messiah must be a son and not a seed. And this is where I think the issue with Joseph not being Jesus's literal dad comes into play. Because as we know, the Israelites will say, well, the Messiah is going to be born of David's line, therefore it has to be a seed. But the whole entire point of listing out all of these failed kings in the line of the Messiah was to show that though the royalty title that Jesus gets is given to him by being in the house of David, he can't come from David's seed because it was so fraught with failed ministries, it would seem. But because he still is a part of Joseph's family, since Joseph is still his earthly dad, he is considered to be a son of David. This is the royal lineage of the son of David, as well as the title to the land granted to Abraham. In contrast to the genealogy given by Luke, we are given the actual physical descent by the male line to Joseph, the husband of Mary, the mother of our Lord. The 3 sections bring before us 3 distinct phases of rule and the failure of each. First, we have the theocracy until David, which ends when the people clamored and begged the prophet Samuel for a king. 1 Samuel 8, 6 through 22. Then comes the period of the kingdom, which was a series of failures, to say the least, until the Babylonian exile. Since then, the nations have ruled Israel until the birth of the Messiah, when they were under the Roman yoke. It was a dismal descent and proved conclusively that no male issue of this line would ever be competent to sit on the throne of Messiah. So God did a little switcheroo there, where he told the truth that the Messiah would come from the line of David, that he would be David's son, but he cannot come from the seed of David because it was so fraught with failure. David was the greatest of the kings, yet his son Solomon was a living evidence of his terrible sin. And so degenerated did the line of his sons become that the time of the exile, Jeconiah drew down upon himself the curse of Jehovah. And this is listed in Jeremiah 22:30, where it says, "Thus saith the Lord, write this man bereft, a master who shall not prosper in his days. For no man of his seed shall prosper, sitting on the throne of David and ruling any more in Judah." So we have conclusive proof as to how Jesus here can be the Messiah, but not be of the seed of David. Because unfortunately, a member of the seed of David received a curse upon him, saying that no man would ever prosper on the throne of David genetically. So he had to inherit the title from his dad, Joseph. And that's how God is able to keep his promise. Neither Joseph nor any of his progenitors since the exile were eligible to the throne. Now, if Christ were his natural son, he also would be debarred. The Messiah cannot be of the seed of Jechoniah, hence the absolute necessity of a virgin birth. Being begotten by God, the sins of progenitors did not taint his blood, and the curse of Coniah had no claim on him. Yet, as the son of Joseph, he inherited the title to the throne and all the honors of the house of David. So, when someone of the Israelite mindset brings that issue up, that is a good proof, a good evidence to bring forth to show how Christ can be the Messiah, not be of the literal seed of David. Then all the generations of Abraham till David were 14 generations. And from David till the Babylonian exile are 14 generations. And from the Babylonian exile till the Christ are 14 generations. In each group, there are 14 generations. From Abraham to and including David are 14. From David to the including Josiah are 14. From Jechoniah to and including Christ are 14. By this particular Hebrew system of enumeration, the true spiritual values are emphasized. David, as the most important progenitor, is counted twice. By substituting an event in place of a man for the link between the second and the third group. Jehoniah is degraded to a place among the private persons of the third group. So he's not even mentioned. As a result, the 20 kings of Judah are divided into two groups of 10 each, the first 7 of whom are counted and the last 3 are blotted out, as on the list here within. And if you go to the actual Concordance commentary on the Concordant website, it lists out all of the 10 kings, all of the kings that were worthy enough to be listed, and the last 3 blotted out. Into 2 groups here within. Each period begins with a revival and closes in apostasy. At the end of the first, the land was oppressed by the Philistines. At the end of the second, it was beneath the feet of Babylon. At the end of the third, it is under the Roman yoke. Now, Jesus Christ's birth was thus. At the espousal of his mother, Mary to Joseph, ere their coming together, she was found pregnant by Holy Spirit. And again, this is mentioned in the book of Luke, chapter 1, 26 through 38. Now, Joseph, her husband, being just and not willing to hold her up to infamy, intended covertly to dismiss her. And in regards to this, the law was very strict in an ordinary case of this kind and demanded that the woman be taken to the entrance of her father's house and the men of her city be required to stone her until she died, as stated in Deuteronomy 22:21. Joseph could not bring himself to do this, so he intended to divorce her according to the law, that when a man had taken a wife and has found some uncleanliness in her, that he was to write her a bill of divorcement and send her out of his house, Deuteronomy 24:1. And I thought this was very, very not telling. I thought it was interesting because we're always told by our atheist friends that the law was extremely harsh. It was very unforgiving. And yet we see here that the harshest of laws could be, for a lack of a better words, overlooked. There was always another way. And the people who were in charge of bringing forth the crimes against the person who committed said crime could always choose not to come forth. And on top of that, there are some crimes, especially the capital punishment crimes, where 2 people are required. So if 2 people saw and one was so Christian-like, that they felt it was their duty to absolutely destroy this person. The other person said, oh, well, I'm going to show this person mercy and not bring forth the whole of the law down upon them. I'm going to go about it another way. They were perfectly within their legal rights to do that, because even though this law of Deuteronomy 22:21 states a woman is to be taken to the entrance of her father's home and the men of the city are required to stone her to death, he is allowed to circumvent that and go to another law that basically says if you find anything unclean in her, and that could mean anything from I don't exactly know off the top of my head, but any sort of uncleanliness, whatever that pertains to, you were able to just write her a bill of divorcement. And it says that Joseph was just for doing this. And keep in mind, it doesn't say that he's just for doing this because she's pregnant with the Messiah. It's not mentioned yet. They're saying that he was just for giving her mercy, essentially, in this regard. He was just for not throwing her directly to the wolves, so to speak. He was just for choosing the more merciful route. And I thought that was a very good thing to point out. Now at his brooding over these things, lo, a messenger of the Lord appeared to him in a trance, saying, Joseph, son of David, you may not be afraid to accept Miriam, your wife, for that which is being generated in her is of Holy Spirit. Now she shall bring forth a son, and you shall be calling his name Jesus, or Yeshua, for he shall be saving his people from their sins. And this isn't included in the commentary, but I also think it's very interesting the reason why he was to be named Jesus or Yeshua in the Hebrew, for he shall be saving his people from their sins. Not he's going to give them an opportunity, not hope to God, fingers crossed, best hopes possible, he'll save his people. He shall be saving his people. And as we see from names throughout all of scriptures, names have a very, very important meaning. They aren't just throwaway names, kind of like what we do today, where, oh, that sounds cool. Let's name our boy Josh. Let's name our girl Sarah, or something along those lines, because that was our grandmother's name. No, when a name is given to a person, especially when God or a messenger of God tells the people, name this person this, it is very, very tied with their destiny. And this is shown, I think, the most significantly with Jacob, because remember, Jacob's name got changed to Israel, and Jacob was he who circumvents, changing to he who wrestles or strives with God. And he was to be the father of all the tribes, and that name meaning passed down through all of his children and shaped his life as well. And you'll notice all of these name changes throughout the Bible. Joseph's name was changed to Zachna Paneah, which I think is he who walks with God, or God is with this person, something along those lines, after he saves the whole of Egypt. Or it may have been he who prospers the land, something akin to that. And then you also have Hadassah, whose name turns to Esther. And I don't know too terribly much about that, but the name change is significant. And then you also have, of course, the most famous, Abraham, who went from Avram, which is just father, to Abraham, father of many, after God makes him the promise. And then Sarai turned to Sarah. And the name changes aren't for hoped for changes. These are God-given declaration changes. So when God says, name this boy Jesus or Yeshua, it's because he will be saving his people. He will be saving his people. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's going to happen one way or another. Now, the whole of this has occurred that may be fulfilled, which is declared by the Lord through the prophet, saying, lo, the virgin shall be pregnant and shall be bringing forth a son, and they shall be calling his name Emmanuel, which is being construed God with us. And again, this is another anti-Christ verse that Israelites will bring forth and say the Messiah's name is supposed to be Emmanuel, but you will notice where it says right along here that they shall be calling his name Emmanuel, which is construed God with us. So it wasn't the parents that named him that. It wasn't God who chose his name. He's saying what other people will be calling him. And as we know, Jesus is referred to as God with us by both unbelievers and believers. So I thought that was also a neat little tidbit there. In Isaiah, the prophet does not use the usual word for virgin, but olme, or damsel, which is stated in Isaiah 7:14, which this past verse was quoting. It is not likely that it was a virgin when it came to pass in the prophet's day, but in this, the proper fulfillment, the Spirit changes the word to virgin, as it is in the Septuagint also. Now, being roused from sleep, Joseph does as the messenger of the Lord bids him, and he accepts his wife. And he knew her not until she brought forth a son, and he calls his name Jesus or Yeshua. And that concludes the first part of this Book of Matthew series. I'm hoping to do this on Wednesday evenings. I don't have a set time in mind, but I will be making it known on my channel posts. So everyone, please pay attention to that in the upcoming couple of days, and I'll make sure to send out a message so you guys know. But if you don't see or hear anything, just I guess keep an eye out for when my videos do eventually pop up. I'm gonna, like I said, make them an evening thing, so probably after dinner, maybe 7-8 o'clock, because I work all day. But I hope everyone enjoyed this. I look forward to making this a ongoing thing all the way through to Revelation. But as of right now, we're going to be focusing on Matthew. Love, grace, and peace, everyone. I will see you on Friday for our first installment of the Problem of Sin and Death. Bye.